Welcome back to Yang Daily. I'll be your host, Alex Cheney, bringing you all the Yang news you need to live your life right. And a very Merry Earth Day to you. Well, it was Earth Day when I started this episode. We've got some bills, UBI data, and endorsements to cover. Let's get cracking. Quick shout out to our Tier 3 patrons, Peter Park, Shay Meehan, and Nathan Stankowski, as well as all our other patrons. You keep us all informed and engaged. If any of you out there want to join these advocates of humanity first and independent journalism, head on over to patreon.com/yangdaily. It would only take a couple of bucks a month from each listener to keep this podcast and community going and growing into the future. Now on to the news. The bill for DC statehood has passed the House, a welcome development, but it is destined to fail in the Senate, barring reforms to the filibuster or a miraculous ethical revolution among Senate Republicans. The parties did, however, manage to come together to see one bill through the Senate. It was aimed at mitigating anti-Asian hate crimes and received almost unanimous approval, with the single down vote coming from insurrectionist sympathizer Josh Hawley. The bill uses grants and other means to incentivize law enforcement to better track hate crimes and establish related hotlines. It requires the DOJ to review hate crime reports more quickly and provide guidance for agencies in new online reporting requirements, as well as public awareness campaigns. Finally, it allows educational courses or community service as options in sentencing for some hate crimes. So, agreeing that hate crimes are bad and making minor bureaucratic changes around them appears to be the high watermark so far for what Congress can accomplish with bipartisan support. Not super encouraging, but better than nothing, right? India is experiencing a vicious second wave of COVID, and they have marked a new worldwide record for daily infections today with 315,000, along with 2,100 daily deaths. Healthcare and other essential services across the country are close to collapse, including a severe shortage of oxygen. It's not looking great. That said, even though India has 4 times the population of the United States, they are still not only lower in infections per population, they've had fewer than 200,000 deaths to our nearly 600,000, meaning our response to the virus has been about 12 times worse. That is a shockingly impressive failure. Ultimately, the failings of any country will be a burden on all countries. Much like with people refusing to take the vaccine, the consequences fall not just on them, but on everyone. The Hayek Fund for Scholars just released the results of some surveys they conducted in an attempt to determine what is causing a difference in approval ratings between UBI and earned income tax credits. They asked 837 workers to give their opinion on one of 4 random UBI proposals, which varied the payments in either amount or frequency. For each, they were asked to indicate what they thought people would do in response to the UBI, varying from quitting their job to saving to paying off debt and so on. What the data showed was that people are more likely to associate monthly payments with work disincentives and yearly lump sum payments with debt repayment, suggesting that we need to do more to convince people of the truth that UBI has been proven to increase work, not decrease it. The good news is that only 2.5% of respondents overall thought people would stop working. We've got a few media items to go over. Leader of the Welsh Liberal Democrats, Jane Dodds, had a conversation about how UBI can help young people in the economy. A panel, including Michael Tubbs and Giselle Huff, discussed how guaranteed income could reimagine our social safety net, and Yang visited the Armchair Expert podcast for a general introduction and discussion about himself, his life, his politics, and UBI. Yang released a more detailed collection of his climate change policies today, Earth Day obviously. There are quite a few elements to it, many of which we've already discussed, so I won't rehash it again, but there's definitely some smaller stuff we have not touched on. You can pursue it in detail at the link in the podcast description. And finally, Yang's daily endorsement today comes from Carlos Menchaca, a New York City councilman and former competitor for mayor. Mechaca is said to have been one of the most progressive, left-leaning candidates in the race, a group that Yang appears to be having more trouble courting this time around. I think we all got a good idea of how that goes during the presidential race, with gems such as lefties denouncing UBI as a Trojan horse to gut the welfare programs, or any universal healthcare plan that isn't Bernie's being evil. The narrative this time seems to be that Yang's evil for being pro-business, which is truly a thinker. Mechaca cited UBI and the People's Bank as two policies that particularly drew him to Andrew. Welcome to the team, Carlos. And that'll do it for today's Yang Daily. Bookmark and share the UBI surveys and Yang's climate agenda. Flood Congress with calls, tweets, faxes, and letters using the ResistBot or Income Movement easy contacts below. If you need help, consult Humanity Forward, the Income Movement Aid Database, the Mission Asset Fund, or United Way, and don't forget to Yang Daily.